how do you feel about what are, it almost certainly appears now, going to be prolonged negotiations with Kirill Kaprizov, who, to be clear, the Wild has offered a max 8-year contract to, and he is a restricted free agent with no rights, basically, to explain it in the simplest terms.
It's really weird.
He can't go to arbitration. It's not called an RFA, but he doesn't have a contract for next year, but he can't go to arbitration. He can't sign an offer sheet. And the only thing that he can do as far as remaining in the National Hockey League is to come back to the Wild. The Wild offered him an 8-year contract. They obviously would like to lock him up as long-term as possible. Sounds like he would love a 3-year contract because that would walk him right into free agency, which Bill Guerin's no dummy. He doesn't want to do. As far as your friend Kevin Fiala goes, he's also an RFA, and it sounds like negotiations have begun with him. I want to run a thought that I have about Fiala past you in a second, but what's your level of concern, if there is one, about the Kaprizov thing? I think the last time that we talked about this, when Kevin Weeks had just put out his tweet, which, by the way, Guerin has tried to shoot down about, oh my God, he's back in Moscow and he might sign there. Guerin has said, dialogue has not been cut off. We are still talking. And at that time, you were not too concerned. Is there a point at which you're going to be more concerned?
What did I tell you like a month ago or 3 weeks ago when the Kevin Weeks news came down?
DEFCON, you gave me like a...
Well, a 1 out of 10. I think I said I'm at like a 3 or a 4. I think that's probably moved up to 5. I think it's moved up to 5 out of 10.
Okay.
I think the panic meter has definitely not shifted, has stayed the same or gone less. I think it's definitely panicking more. I get it. Kirill dominated the league, and he's probably too got an agent who is saying, man, you're still, I know you came into the NHL quote unquote late, but look at what you did. This team has never had someone like this before. You should be asking for the moon. And if you're not going to get the moon, well, let's go short term. Walk you up to when you're 27, 28, and then you can cash out. And I understand, that's the politics. That's kind of what it is. You're not going to get Kirill Kaprizov to sign a team-friendly deal, and he shouldn't. He absolutely should not. I would guess, I'm hoping it's at least 4 years. If it's anything less than 4 years, I'd be shocked. But
3 years is an awful sign.
I don't see
I would
how
hope
that
5
goes.
years.
Well, I want 5.
I get you're not going to get 8.
Yeah. You're not going to get the 8.
4 or 5 to me is where the team is probably going to try and draw a line to not have him become a Ranger in 4 years.
You're not going to get him to 8. If you can get him at 5, great. And this is what I think we first talked about. If you don't win a cup, if you don't contend for a cup in the next 5 years or under the length of that Kaprizov contract, well, again, window. Like the window right now is open for you to possibly make a run.
Right.
You can't assume, I would love to hope for the next 10 years, the Wild aren't just making playoffs, which they've done the previous 10 years, but are making runs at Stanley Cups. I hope that's the case, but I can't assume really over a 2-3 year window. Look at the Minnesota Twins right now. It's a complete disaster after them being the best team in baseball 2 years ago to them falling off a cliff. You can't assume that in sports. So I think if you can get them 4 years, and look, I would pay him $9 to $10 million. I really would. I would pay him up the wazoo. And that's
I think
what I
they're coming in at 8 something right now, if I'm not mistaken, from reports.
Yeah. So I can see it being 8 too.
The problem is this: if he gets his way and gets 3 years, the immediate pressure on you to win a cup is enormous. Because if he gets 3 years, now it's go time immediately. If he gets 5 years, I could see saying, okay, we certainly should be very competitive in 2021-22, and then really hit the gas floor in 2022-23. But if it's 3 years, man, it is go time immediately, and that's the problem. So hopefully it ends up at 4 or 5 years. I don't think he's going back to Moscow. I really don't. Unless there's behind the scenes stuff we don't know, because we know nothing about this kid, like nothing. But I would just say playing wise, that's not going to be the goal.
I don't mean to bring a question onto you, but I wonder if too, what's more likely? The Wild, which happens first, I should say, not more likely. Which happens first? The Wild find the center and then ink Kaprizov, or the Wild ink Kaprizov and find the center? Because if I'm the Wild side, I might be heightening my focus to find the center to say, hey, you're not going to play with Ryan Hartman this year. Here's your center. Here's the guy for you to play with. Now let's get your contract figured out. Because if I'm Kaprizov, again, I was playing with Ryan Hartman and I was making him look 10 times better than he ever was. That should be the ploy. If I'm Bill Guerin, I'm trying to heighten my center and find that immediately. I know the number one task is getting these two signed. Internally, that's one and two.
Yep.
But you honestly should focus on finding the center first, because it's probably going to help the Kaprizov negotiations.
And you just ran me right into the Fiala talker that I want to talk to you about. And this is it's reckless speculation. It's a sneaky suspicion, okay?
Okay.
So I have nothing to back this up. But you just hit on, because look, Kaprizov's going to come down to term and cash ultimately. If you give him what he wants, he's signing it.
Yep.
But that being said, I have a sneaky suspicion, the more I think about this, that Kevin Fiala is going to be, that there's more evidence to me as far as the momentum here, that Kevin Fiala is going to be the centerpiece of a trade for the position you just talked about, a center, by the Wild in the coming weeks to fill what you're talking about.
Reckless speculation.
Which is a Kaprizov line mate.
Yep.
And I know we've talked about this, and I know that you, Declan, have sort of come to accept that this might happen.
Yeah.
But the more thought I give this, doesn't it make sense that if you're going to make this trade right now, and to what you're saying, let's say Kaprizov, it's about term first, money, or no, it's about money first, term second. Let's say that there's a list of Kaprizov himself, wish list.
Yep.
Center's on there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not on there.
Yep.
And the only way you're going to get the guy that you're talking about is to trade Fiala.
So here's the thing. Here's the conundrum the Wild face.
I love that word.
And it is a good one. And I think also fans need to recognize this. Here's the assets you have at your disposal to get the center via trade. All right, so we have 3 first-round picks over the next 2 drafts. I'm going to use the next 2 drafts. 3 first-round picks.
Yep.
Matthew Boldy, Marco Rossi,
Yep.
Matt Dumba, Kevin Fiala. 7 things. I just listed 7 things.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that will get you, the thing that's the least obtainable giving you, I think, the number 1 center is, unfortunately, Matt Dumba. I just don't think anyone's going to flip a defenseman for a number 1 center, and Matt Dumba's value is not as high as we think it is. If it's the opposite of what I'm saying, and the Wild are able to do that, great.
No.
I just don't think that's the most likely path.
He's a sweetener, part of the package, maybe, but he ain't centerpiece.
So that leaves you with the following options to get the center via trade: Fiala, Rossi, Boldy, multiple first-round draft picks.
Love how you think.
You're going to alienate and piss off a fan base and possibly some of the people in your organization for mortgaging assets. You can't fleece a trade by just pulling a rabbit out of a hat in NHL 2021 with no trade limit on. You have to figure out what are the assets we have, and you have to give up significant assets to get the thing you're looking for. You can't fleece teams. So no matter what, there's going to be a portion of this fan base is that it's going to be upset or at least irked initially by the trade whenever that center comes in. Mm-hmm. Because Fiala is the established player. Rossi and Boldy are hotshot prospects, and I think they have good futures, but you don't know. You have 3 first-round picks over the next 2 drafts, so those are pretty damn good lottery tickets, even if they're in the 20s. Mm-hmm. You're going to irk some fans with no matter how you spin this trade, because those are the only ways you get the center you're looking for.
You're 1,000% right.
You don't ever say that to me a lot either.
You're 1,000% right, and here's why I think Fiala gets traded. Matthew Boldy is prepared to step into your lineup at the wing this season. Matthew Boldy is under your control for quite some time. Kevin Fiala is an RFA, headed towards UFA, and let's say he does a bridge contract. He's going to have to get paid big himself because he puts up enough goals and points and is talented enough to go for a very substantial contract. Meanwhile, you're in a salary cap league. Kaprizov, who you have every intention of keeping for a long time, is going to break the bank, and well, he should. If you trade Boldy, you're trading away a controllable asset who you think is a productive player. If you trade Fiala and let's say at least one of those first-round picks And now let's say you put Dumba in as a sweetener, just something like that. Okay? And by the way, I'm out on Eichel. I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think so.
I think he might go to the Kings. I think he might go. There are teams that will probably make a trade for him, but they still haven't decided on surgery yet. There's too many variables there that if you're wrong, it's a catastrophe. Like it's a franchise-killing catastrophe. So, because the price for him is going to be, at least the asking price will be enormous. So let's say you do a trade for a productive center. Let's say it's the kid from Buffalo, Reinhardt, who plays some wing, can play wing and center, but he certainly can play center. But let's say it's from that list, okay? Fiala's a really good return there. That's a really nice return. We're not talking about the only trade where you're like, well, you need Fiala and Boldy and a first-round pick might be a guy like Eichel. But since I'm out on that, Fiala for Reinhardt or Fiala for a center, a really good one, I think is possible if you include one more sweetener. That's why I think from a financial standpoint, the Fiala portion of the trade actually makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I don't want to lose.
Because are you really going to let both those guys break the bank? Because if that's a lot going out in a salary cap league where, to your point, it's going to be flat for a few years.
Fiala's in an interesting position too. 2 years ago, his contract negotiations went right up to training camp. Then he had a visa issue, so organization-wise, they were kind of irked by him. He's now changed his ownership, his agency, so he's now got a new owner. He's coming off basically a 100-game sample size of pretty damn productive plays, saying, "I'm with you. I'm here. I want my money, and he deserves his money." I think his dynamic. I don't want to lose it. I like to say I'm the warden of the Kevin Fiala fan club because I think there's still misperceptions of him out there. But in general, he's a damn good player, and you need him on your team. But that's my conundrum I face is, well, then, all right, if I don't want to lose Fiala, then I'm going to give up Boldy or I'm going to give up Rossi. And the fantasy in people's heads of like, well, I can't because his future is projected. I know what Kevin Fiala is. Odds are Boldy and Rossi, both of them won't develop into the NHL superstars you think they are. One of them might. Mm-hmm. And there's a chance both of them can develop into NHL caliber players for sure. But the odds of both of them being NHL superstar, all-star, perennial award-winning players are low.
Yeah.
And I think people don't understand that because they see them as the projections and they were great in college or they have great pedigrees. That's all true. That's what made them top picks. But the odds are of them turning in to Kirill Kaprizov are slim to none.
Right.
Kevin Fiala might be the actual most competent ceiling for one of those two players. And Kevin Fiala is a good player and I like him. But the odds of both them turning into Kevin Fiala are still low. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at a crossroads.
But if you can get a center who can center Kaprizov and now bring out the best in Kaprizov, so that's a good replacement for Fiala in the sense that you're getting a very productive player. And again, it also comes down to the cap. It also comes down to a salary structure where if Fiala and Kaprizov break the bank, now that's two guys basically making a ton of your salary cap. And Boldy and Rossi, if they develop at all into good players, are under your control for quite some time. That's what I'm saying is I think there's a financial discussion here that probably has to be had about how much you're going to pay these guys because you know what? Fair or not, Fiala's going to look at what Kaprizov gets and say, hey, guys, look at my stats.
Yeah.
And by the way, I've been in the league longer.
Yes.
And he's damn talented.
Yes.
So I don't think we can dismiss the Fiala ask here.
I don't blame you, man.
This is that's why. And look, there might be a way to make a trade for a center who you like where it's even up, or they might send you a sweetener. So I'm not saying I've got the answer, but I just think this assumption that you're going to sign Kaprizov and Fiala and it's all going to be fine might be a little bit of a reach. And Kaprizov, no doubt, has to be your focus.
Yep.
So,
wow,
that's a lot.
We went in.
That was a lot. Next time we talk, I want to talk about the expectations that are going to focus on Boldy starting next season.
Yeah,
because you know who's going to be a special player, or heck, he's not going to be. He is one. Cole Caulfield.
Oh yeah, he's already damn good.
Cole Caulfield is a midget. He's a small man, and he made an impact in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's awesome,
which is a
dude.
place where like Goudreau has disappeared.
Yeah, he's an awesome player.
So that's pretty impressive.
Well, I will say we'll probably tease, and we'll be all over it. The expansion draft's 13 days away as we're recording this
21st.
right now on July 8th, so it's July 21st. I'm sure you and I will be all over that. We'll probably do maybe one more protected list and our exposed players and whatnot, and I'm sure we'll get into that maybe next week.
Yep.
And then we'll obviously react to the news. So even though it's the offseason, yeah, like you said, the
just
Stanley
starting.
Cup ended. This is now Judd's Hockey Show. We're at this is the entree. The appetizers of our offseason.
Training camp's right around the corner, baby.
We're gonna be talking puck again here. So
All right,
absolutely.
say your thing.
Pat, shoot, score.